Guys, today's the big day. We got a major patch for Borderlands 4, and alongside that, we have the Halloween event, so let's go over it. Alright, so we have the Horrors of Kairos event that's going to be from October 23rd to November 6th. They added the Murmur Legendary T2 Assault Rifle and the Scully Legendary Order Grenade. And in order to get these, you got to kill world bosses across Kairos. So I assume you just drive around, find the rip bubbles, jump in, and hopefully get your drops. Alright, so this is a big patch, so this will be a pretty long video. So progression, loot, and rewards. So specialization cost will be not 5,000, but 1,500 now for Iridium. That's quite nice. They added drops to certain boss fights that were not dropping loot. So I know RJ was one of them, and I don't know who else there could be, but there could be others in the game. So that's quite nice. Hopefully we don't have like a lot of will drop only items anymore. For those who were trying to 100% the game, there was one bug where you couldn't get all the echoes, so they have addressed that, which is quite nice, so you can get your cosmetic for that. They improved equipment handling while opening rewards while driving. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm glad they fixed that. That's cool. And as for the Lost Loot Machine, it now prioritizes higher rarity stuff, so hopefully you're not getting your drops eaten anymore. I've had Legendaries drop and then not be in the Lost Loot Machine, so that should hopefully be fixed. Loot enemies now drop more cash. Cool, but I mean, they're still pretty unrewarding, so hopefully they get fixed more in the future. The golden chest bug, where you can't open it even if you have keys, they fixed that. And then they fixed some achievements not unlocking and some small soft logs. So again, if you guys want to read the patch notes for yourself, I will link it in the description. On to gameplay and missions. This is a good one. So Maurice Black Market Vendor now works properly in multiplayer. Before, in multiplayer, people were not getting their checks on the vendor, which really sucked. The legendary vending machine no longer closes unexpectedly during the Bend of the Line mission. Yeah, I heard about a lot of people losing their legendary farms there. And then for the rest of these are mostly just, you know, fixing the player from getting stuck, or enemies getting stuck, or enemy pathfinding. They fixed a lot of that stuff, which is quite good. Alright, on to the Vault Hunter changes. We have a lot here. Harlow. There was a bug where your game frame rate would just tank on Harlow, and they have fixed that, which is nice. Her augments for gun damage now apply to Ripper heavy weapons, and also Entanglement is working with that too. And then her class mods do not roll +6 anymore on pencils down. It's been corrected to +5. And then on to some of the nerfs. There's going to be some nerfs in this patch. So neutron capture was one of the most overpowered things for Harlow, and it has been converted from gun damage into radiation. No longer action skill damage. So this is a huge hit for Harlow. They explain why here. Basically, it was overtuned. They needed to adjust it, and hopefully now it's still functioning good, but we'll have to do some testing on that. Down here, Flux Generator and Annihilation interaction updated to spawn grenades now scale correctly with character level. And then on to my boy Amon. Ooh, let's see. Shield visuals adjusted to improve clarity in combat situations. Before, you could not see through that shield. Hopefully it's a lot better now. Now for forward skill, they adjusted the cooldown correctly for multiplayer, so hopefully it doesn't bug out anymore. For the onslaughter action skill, it's going to be your fiery punch. They stabilize the camera if you're holding the noisy cricket, and also rocket punch is now consistently attacking as frequently as it should when you're in multiplayer. And then on to a nerf. So seeing red was a very good skill, and if you don't know, it's like you get a kill, you get cryo damage for up to 10 stacks. No matter how many points you have in a skill, it's just going to be 4 seconds per. So if you don't get a kill within 4 seconds, your stacks just go away. So you need to play fast, basically, if you want to maintain this skill. A little bit sad about that, but it is a very good skill, and I kind of understand. Moving on to the blue tree, so Scorch Kairos, that gives you ordnance damage and mag size for the skill. And now it shows the right mag size on your ordnance slot, so that's good. The Forge Wave no longer fires unintentionally during Glacial Rapture. I didn't know that was a thing, but good deal. Projectiles no longer get stuck in the air when Forge Master Wall is activated during the Fortress Automata boss fight. Didn't know that was a thing either. Alright, on to a big one. So Blackout has been fixed. So before, you could only put 1 point into it, even though it's a 5-point skill. And now you can get all 5 points into it, which is quite nice. But they brought down the damage from 21% per point to 15%. But still, it's an overall buff, so that's going to be insane for Amon. He's going to be even stronger, so I'm excited for that. And then for the green tree, there was a bug where if you pull out your axes, you can make them disappear and be invisible. They fixed that. Corrected animation of Crucible while climbing. And then Raging Inferno, they fixed it, guys. Incendiary damage now properly scales with points invested. Before, you could only put 1 point into this skill too, and like, even though it's a 5-point skill. And now it's unlocked its true potential. On the Vex's Siren, so you could probably already predict what's going to happen here, so I'm just going to jump down to it. They fixed bleed. It will not, you know, recursively stack damage anymore for insane damage. Basically, you throw a crit knife, and then it would just do pretty much infinite damage. They fixed that. They also fixed 2 visual bugs, so that's quite nice. And then down here, they also buffed Trouble by quite a bit for 3 skills. So hopefully Trouble is going to be a lot better, but again, like I said in the last video, it's not Trouble damage that's the issue entirely. It's the AI and the tracking and stuff. It's just way too slow and really hurts to make a playstyle out of it. Moving on to Rafa, so the Legendary Comm, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but when you drop a free grenade, it will do the appropriate damage, which is good. And then for Apophis Lance, they changed it to penalize gun accuracy instead of gun handling, so it will not ruin your projectile speed at all. And this is a really good one. Apophis Lance now benefits from cooldown reduction effects. So before, if you activated now with caffeine from your specialization, it would not cool down Apophis Lance. Now it should. That is huge. Onto the gear, we have a lot here. So skills that boost gun handling now properly increase projectile speed. So no longer should you have these flimsy bullets falling out of your barrel to the floor. They fixed that. Good deal. And then you guys might know there was an infinite ammo glitch with the order enhancement. They fixed that. You can no longer stack infinite ammo anymore. Your health regen from the adrenaline pump now works correctly with the Guardian Angel shield. Didn't know that was a thing. And then here's the one that everybody's been wondering about. What happened to the crit knife? Reduce critical chance on Jacob's crit knife to 30%. I'm gonna be honest, the game still doesn't change. You're just gonna throw more knives and then eventually land it and then do that same insane damage with the crit knife. So basically they turned the massive damage from it into an RNG thing, which is still gonna be probably best in slot. And for those who know about the Songbird glitch where you can stack infinite damage, they fixed that too. That is no more. Also, we did have a damage glitch where you can shoot out torque stickies from a shotgun. And then when you swap your firing mode, it would just do one-shot damage. They fixed that too. So pretty much all the damage glitches have been fixed for the most part, but let's keep going here. Jacob's weapon parts updated so ricochet effects only trigger from intended damage sources. Ripper Legendary Shotgun and Golden God overheating effect now clears correctly when switching weapons. So before there was a damage glitch with this too, where you can stack infinite damage on the Golden God. That is no more. For the Oh My God SMG, the first 3 shots will no longer consume ammo. That's just a gimmick of the gun, I guess. The Gamma Void Heavy Ordnance now properly increases the radiation damage to enemies inside the Singularity. This weapon before was so bad, but hopefully now it actually does something. The repair animation for a COV gun now properly displays if you use a rep kit in multiplayer. Guys, I'm sad about this one, but I understand it. But the frangible SMG, you know, that broken SMG that didn't do anything really, they removed it from chest loot tables. Now, they didn't say they removed it from the game, so I assume if you had a copy, you're still good, you can keep it. But yeah, I mean, the gun was broken, so makes sense. As for the first impression assault rifle, which I believe is a pre-order bonus if I recall, they reduced the critical hit damage multiplier. Was it really that good? I never really used it much. Huh. If you spec into gun handling, you now have better control of your recoil for order assault rifles and torque heavy weapons with triple barrel. The Blood Off Flamethrower underbarrel no longer deals infinite damage or bypasses bio armor. So, that glitch, I do understand fixing that, but not being able to bypass bio thresher or bio bulkhead, man, those bosses suck. Torque grenades with the spring or apex augments now always explode on their first apex. And then grenades with spring augment and divider payload now have intended 3 additional bounces when paired. This one I'm a little bit sad about. I actually didn't know it was a bug, but your ordnance slot no longer gets maximum charges when you get a second wind. I always thought that was intended, but apparently not. They fixed it. Healing orbs from the legendary rep kit Kill Spring can no longer heal enemies. I didn't know that was a thing. Guys, they fixed the Cinder Shelly. This shield would talk so much, but now it's supposed to do the right amount. Cool. Then we have T-Door underbarrel names now match correctly across all item cards and ammo widgets. And then finally here, Malawan lingering payloads and splat pack augments. Projectiles no longer persist when throwing them at vending machines. I didn't know about that. Onto the guns. So last week they did explain they're going to buff the assault rifles, and sure enough they did. Star Helix fire rate increased by 33%. Will that be enough? Bonnie and Clyde's base damage increased by 40%. Pair of Thieves bonus damage granted increased by 150% from 100, so this weapon should be a lot better now. For the Bugbear, they increased the base damage by 40%, and then for its special ability, they increased it from 100% to 200%, so this weapon should hopefully be better. Rowan's Charge base fire rate increased by 100%. Holy crap. And they reduced the recoil slightly. For the Lucian's Flank, they increased the base damage by 50%, and they reduced the recoil too. And finally, the Aegon Stream base damage increased by 35%. This weapon was already pretty good. Now it's even better. Onto Heavy Weapon Ordnance, Gamma Void base damage increased by 450%. This was much needed. And then for Singularity Duration, they decreased it to 6 seconds from 10. Radiation Damage Amp increased by 50% from 40. And Gamma Void cooldown increased by 100%. So I think they're going for this thing to be like a one-shot wonder. Like, you know, you have one shot out of it, you shoot it, it does insane damage, and then you put it away. Could be a lot of fun. And then finally, the Ravenfire base damage increased by 25%. On the class mods, so all class mods, melee damage, action skill damage on level 50 class mods increased to 60%. Before, I think it was what, 45, 30? I actually don't recall. So that's probably a decent buff. And then skill damage on level 50 class mods increased to 45%. For Vex, we have Avatar Attunement skill duration on level 50 class mods increased to 45%. And then Kindred Spirit's command skill cooldown rate on level 50 class mods increased to 45%. For Amon, we have quite a few too, all of the untouched legendary comms. So Blacksmith Forge Drone duration on level 50 class mods has increased to 45%. And the legendary effect now increases all Forge Drone damage by 20% per active Forge Drone. For the Viking class mod, the detonation damage on level 50 has been increased by 60%. For the Forge Master class mod at level 50, they increased the damage by 60%. And then finally, for the Elementalist legendary comm, they increased all damage dealt by Amon by 2% per active affinity. Not bad. Before, it was just like raw movement speed, but now it gives damage. Finally, for Harlow comms, we have Bio Robot's hazard damage on level 50 class mod increased to 60%, and Skeptic's stasis damage on level 50 has increased to 60%. Nice additions. Onto the other gears, so they did say they want to buff the melee game quite a bit, so every passive for melee is now stronger. So on rep kits, your passive for hard hitter is now 50% instead of 40%. But the firmware, Real Big Fist now grants 25% melee damage at rank 1 and 2. It used to be 15%, now it's 25. Action Fist now grants 30% action skill damage at rank 2, up from 30%. Wait, what? They changed it from 30 to 30? That might be a typo, or I'm not sure. Okay, I just checked. It used to be 10% for phase 2, but now it's 30%. That makes sense. And then Action Fist now grants 30% action skill damage on melee kill, up from 25%. And then finally for the shields, if you're doing melee, the Boxer Armor Shield now grants 20, 30, 50% melee damage depending on the parts rolled. And Berserk Energy Shields now grant 20, 30, 50% instead of your 20, 27.5, and 35%. Even stronger. On to Groundbreaker, so we knew it was coming, but I'm kind of shocked they didn't nerf it more than what I thought they would. So Groundbreaker now only stores gun, action skill, and ordnance damage. Before, you could dip into damage over time, and it would just stack it more and more and more infinitely. That's what made the melee builds so broken. So they realized that was kind of broken, so they fixed that recursive damage loop. Either way, it still sounds like it's going to be something, and we can build around it. Moving on to the UI, so most of these are just visual changes and small quality of life. But there is a couple I do want to highlight. So Combat Radar now features a dedicated legendary loot indicator. Before, you just saw your little red dots from your enemies and that was it. Now, I'm assuming we can see our legendary star when a legendary drops and know exactly where it's at. That is a good change. And then also, echolocation path remains readable over time, making improvements to pathfinding. Echo 4 gets me so lost, and it seems they improved upon that. Good deal. And for the rest, we have a lot of tiny small changes for visual bugs, audio bugs, setting and accessibility, player experience, so they're getting, stability for the game. Hopefully it can render better and run your game better frame rates. And then some missed things such as loading your friends list correctly and connecting the shift. Moving on here, for the weekly activities, the big Encore machine has moved to Battle Wagon. It's going to be one of the Ripper drill sites. So if you do want to farm for your Phosphine Bugbear or Affinity XXL, that's where you're going to farm it from. As for the weekly wildcard, they did change it to be the Legendary Kickballer for this week, so if you want to get that, you can farm that up. And as for the Black Market Vendor for Maurice, it's going to be moved to a new location. Anyways, that's going to be it for all the patch notes today. We have a lot of stuff. Let me know what you guys think about all the stuff in the description below. Personally, I'm kind of shocked they didn't nerf more. I'm happy about that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you haven't yet, hit that sub button on the way out. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.